Most systems go.
Good.
We should all be cracking drinks.
Well, that's how we're starting the this is our clap.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, ladies.
All right, guys. Well, welcome back to the podcast, gentlemen. We've got Wally and I, along with Scott and Michael. Seems like we just had you guys on here. You know?
Yeah.
It's like last week or something.
Mm-hmm. It was a good week. Yeah.
Yeah. We just all getting back from the desert.
Yeah.
Back
to the real world.
Did you guys come back and find anything menacing from all those miles we did off road? I'm so old now.
Other than the layers of dirt. Yeah. No, it was good.
Menacing, like on the vehicle?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't looked at it. I watched it.
How many miles do you think you did last weekend? Like that's what I'm saying. We're old. I went to Boron. That was it. I only went one direction too.
I don't know. Probably. I don't know. Maybe 100.
Yeah, I don't think I did that many. Maybe 100.
maybe
or
100.
less. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of just kind of hanging out with the family. You know.
It's not a bad thing. I used to always think when I'd go to camps and the second you get there when you're younger, you're in the 20s, get there, you immediately just have to take the truck out. You're just like itching to do it.
I mean,
Definitely.
that's a reason why I would say probably half a dozen trips, and I can think of off the top of my head, I broke my truck within, an hour of being in the desert.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you get there, you got to go romp on the thing, and then you break it, and then you're like, oh great, I only got 4 more days here with no vehicle now, so that's cool.
Yeah, then you've got the RC car only or something.
Pretty much.
But I always thought it was funny because then I would drive by all these camps and I'm like, that car has not left camp once. Why did they even bring it out?
Because it's probably broken.
That's what happens, right? Yeah, party too hard right out the bat.
I just think they got old like us, and I show up I'm like, why did they even trailer my truck? I trailered my truck out there because I had to sleep in something, but
There's tons of people like that though. They bring their trucks out and then they don't drive them. I'm like, why? Why'd you even bring it? I mean, I don't know.
I was cautious to drive my truck because it's not like I'm trying to sell it. Well, maybe not actively, but that's the goal, is to sell it. I'm like, I cannot break something else right now. Everything's this on this truck. Everything's working. I got to keep it as is.
Well, it didn't help that you broke the diesel, the F250, 350, whatever it is, right before you left. So you're like, I'm already 1 truck down. I can't be 2 trucks down.
Just put you in that
just
mindset.
in a weekend alone,
Yeah. And then that brings us to kind of our topic tonight is the Fab Lab. And so not only am I 1 diesel down, 1 Ford Ranger that I'm scared to break because it typically has some issue because it's a shit box. Then I have a Bronco it was a 3-day build.
That's been a garage paperweight for the last 7 years.
About 5, but it's anyway.
Feels like 7.
The Fab Lab is good
while.
old Mikey here. Started the Fab Lab, so kind of wanted to touch base on what that is and how did it start and where's it going?
Well, the Fab Lab started, I think Jesse coined the term. Jesse is our adventure endeavor. He coined the term when we were living together, that would be probably close to 10, 15 years ago. We used to call the garage the Fab Lab because we were working on my truck. He had a red Explorer back then that we built together. And it was just kind of a joking thing. And then...
Were you picking up any side work at the time, or?
So before that, this is super off topic, but I was saving for something. Doesn't really matter at this time, but saving for something. So I was doing a bunch of side work, and the first side work I ever actually did on anybody's first paying customer would have been Scott with Fiona way back when. I helped him put the bypasses on the front of his truck.
Oh, nice. Which bypasses were those, Scott?
There were some like.
Here, can you go close to the mic, bud?
Yeah, there were some like 8-inch swayaways or something for like my total chaos kit that I had on the front of my first truck.
Were they bolt on?
I
like that term. Mikey probably likes that term.
That's how I sold it, of course. And I was like, "Hey, Mikey, can you help me do this? It'll be a 1-night job, right?"
Yeah,
and then there we are, Sunday night after.
Which it was a 1-day job, but it was a late one night.
Yeah,
I remember like
No paint.
just chop saw, like, all the sparks because it's 12 o'clock at night.
Pissing off neighbors.
My neighbors probably
yeah.
pissed
Oh,
back
yeah.
then. Yeah, for sure.
And it was in the thick of it too, because we're all, at that time it was fresh to me. I mean, obviously Mikey had a bit more experience than I did, but like
Not much.
not even knowing about like, oh wait, we actually have to cycle the suspension, so we
Yes.
know where to mount this
Yes.
shock, and like, oh wow, this really is not just a 3-hour job, right? So
Right.
yeah. Anyway.
And then this has to come off, and then that has to come
Right,
off.
yeah.
pull the coil
And you forget
over,
how
upper arm.
much like gets into it, So.
What I like that is just because we're talking about Mikey's shop right now and his business, which is awesome, and I'm so stoked for you. It's taking off. It's supporting your family now. It's a life changing thing for you.
Thanks, man.
But like all three of us have had work done from you now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked on Elliot's truck. This would have been when I was working with Tommy, TT Motorsports, before he moved to Phoenix.
Yeah, so that's how it officially started as
Yes.
a business. You started originally working with Tommy under his name. TT Motorsports.
Yeah, I quit my day job of 12 years. I worked for this company. I was shipping and receiving manager. And I liked my job because it was a desk job, which I thought I was fine at the time because, I mean, come 5 o'clock, I was ready to run out of there, run home, get in the garage and work till, I was young. I could, you only need like 6-7 hours of sleep. I worked till 1-2 o'clock in the morning every night in the garage. Then, you go to 24-hour Del Taco down the street, eat some food, go to bed. You're up at 7:30
I
to
recall
be
that,
work
by
at
the
8.
way. The first time I met you guys, I went to your house, and you're like, "Yeah, we're going to Del Taco." I'm like, "Who eats Del Taco?" It's like
So
you
in-
guys
in-
ordered
in
like a
town
lot
here-
of Del Taco. So, like,
It's the only thing open. You're like, anything past 10 o'clock, you got two options. You got In-N-Out, which I think is open till midnight, and then you got Del Taco, which is 24 hours. So
and it was like 1 a.m, and we got Del Taco,
Yeah.
and I think it was like 2, and I was like, I gotta be at work at like 5:30.
Yeah.
Like they didn't know. I'm like, so anyways, you started. So you quit that job.
I quit that job and I started working for Tommy, and I worked for Tommy for almost a year. It was like 11 months. And then he decided he wanted to move to Phoenix, Arizona to pursue a relationship. And he's like, you can come with me to Phoenix. I don't have any family in Phoenix. I don't know anybody there. So
I would
like,
say that's a smart decision.
yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm good on Phoenix. I'm just going to stay here. And I was like, I don't really know what to do. And he's like, well, just take the shop over. It's all good. I talked to the landlord at the time. Everything's going to be fine. And well, it wasn't fine. I got evicted 4 months later from there, but I was already, I get bit by the bug. I was just ready to do more, and I wanted to do it full time. So I found another spot to move into, and I subleased for years and, scratched and clawed my way into owning my own shop. So it wasn't without its hardships for sure.
Well, it's good though. I mean, like it's almost better that you got thrown in head
Oh.
first, right?
It's the only way to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
It never would have happened if I'm being honest.
it's pretty easy to drag your feet,
Oh, it's the easiest.
and I'm
Once you get
definitely-
comfortable, it's hard to get uncomfortable.
So what kind of at the shop, mostly like pre-runner stuff or
I try to only do pre-runner stuff, but we have a real tight knit little community where I'm at now. The shops that are around there, and always it seems like once a week somebody in the complex is like, "Hey, can you weld this piece?" Because we got general contractors, or I have electricians. I'm making panels, like electrical panels that they can't buy anymore because they're 45 years old and nobody makes them. And then you got obviously other people in the complex that have their Jeeps or their cars, and everybody always wants something done, at a moment's notice, it seems like. But it's hard to tell people no,
and
Sure.
especially when they're your neighbors.
it's fab related.
It's
right? Like,
I generally try to stick to fab related stuff, a little bit of mechanic stuff. Obviously, through the years doing fabrication, you acquire tools because you have to take stuff apart to build stuff, then put it back together. So you kind of get, a little bit, handy mechanically, and yeah, basically.
but
yeah.
Jesse now, he's actually a really good mechanic.
So my employee Jesse Hofer, yeah, he's a real mechanic, and I'm not. I'm a fabricator, self-taught. Jesse's an actual real, like, went to school, learned how to be a fabricator. I mean a mechanic. I'm sorry.
So that's opening your shop up to more stuff. Now, I think
Sure.
generally you guys still want to focus on fab.
Yeah, that's what he enjoys personally. That's
And
his, of course, that's my enjoy too. But the thing is when there's wiring and and mechanic stuff to be had, I mean, unfortunately, he's kind of the guy that does most of that. Obviously, I'll do what I can, but it's hard to compete with somebody who's clearly better at you at some stuff. It's like, how do you do it, when the other guy can do it twice as fast as you, kind of a thing. So,
But I think that's just playing to the strengths of
absolutely.
management of like, hey, if you suck at something, hey, this guy's good at it, let him do that.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's
awful on the computer. I mean, I don't know if I've ever met anybody.
hopefully he doesn't listen to this. You think he's gonna listen to this?
No, he probably
his
will.
fingers look like this when he's typing.
No, yeah, it's just awful on the computer. So I try to do that stuff because I'm clearly, I was an office guy for 14 years. I know how to search on Google. I had, I hate to say it because I worked in that office, but I had like 10,000 posts on Desert Rangers. Like, I know how forums work. I know, all that stuff. And that poor guy, he just doesn't know, so he's like Googling stuff. And I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. The way it's worded, it just looks for keywords. And it's fine. It's all good. We have our strengths and we have our weaknesses.
But it's good. That's how you can make the shop work and be more efficient.
You got to delegate, man. That's the hardest part. There's stuff that you want to do as a business owner, but you have to delegate that work out, or all of it's never going to get done.
So what made you want, like, what was your initial driving factor to be Mr. Fab Guy?
Well, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much so.
But when did you, what made you want to fab in the first place? Like, what was your first instance of like?
Well, we touched on it on the last podcast that I was on. I bought I don't even know if I bought it. I acquired a sandrail chassis that I was going to build into like a dirt buggy, like a Volkswagen buggy, and come to find out after months of kind of cutting it apart and mocking some stuff up onto it, it was just too twisted up and not straight wasn't worth saving. So I ended up throwing that away. But that's all it really took, was just trying to build something and realize that I couldn't build what I wanted to build, but I was so interested in the process of building stuff that was pretty much it. And then obviously at some point around then, maybe even before then, I was a member of Desert Rangers, the forum, it was just so interesting to want to build stuff. And then I always wanted a truck, but I didn't have any money. But I figured I had a welder and I had an angle grinder. I could build something, and then that's kind of how it all started.
But so, as a kid, your dad had some stuff.
My dad owned a welder. My dad's he was a grip, which is like a motion pictures. They do camera and lighting, but for fun, he was a motorcycle mechanic. Like, he did Harley Davidson's restorations and stuff like that for friends and his own personal stuff. So he owned a welder. He had basic hand tools. He had a torch, like an oxyacetylene torch set. And he had, some very archaic air tools. And I think he owned an electric angle grinder, I think.
I think everyone has to own it.
That was it. That was all he had.
Which I find, it's funny to say that because we obviously all own angle grinders. But
now,
I don't think I've been in a normal dude's garage with an angle grinder.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's I don't even remember if he even had that. I think he had an air grinder that had a little 4-inch wheel on it. That's probably all he needed to work on Harleys. But yeah, you go to cut a piece of tubing and you're like, oh, this tiny little disc isn't gonna cut all the way through, so you're spinning it as you're trying to cut it, and it's just a mess.
So you want? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you. Not everyone's going to have listened to the last podcast, but you kind of grew up going off-road and you're I want a truck that can go off. Cause when I grew up in Bakersfield, right? So everyone's truck the company was called Crazy Customs with K's, Crazy Custom, 2 K's. And it was just these gargantuan lifted 50-inch tires, ridiculous trucks. Right. And that was that was the business owner who had every penny he wanted to spend, like on whatever, would buy these trucks with these crazy paint jobs, and obviously they could not go off road.
No, absolutely.
And so like I had no idea what like off road was.
Well, we had the same thing here in town. There was two places in town here that would just build trucks with, lifts. Everything was lifts. So it'd be like a 12-inch lift, custom 12-inch lift, custom 14-inch lift. They had these giant tires. I think they're probably only 40s. But, when you're a kid, you see these trucks driving around. You're like, oh my God, it's a monster truck. We didn't have any pre-runners or anything like that. It was basically just the forum that got me interested in like the fact that somebody could build a truck with off-road shocks and go drive fast in the desert. I don't know, just something about that, probably coming from like the dirt bike background, that seemed interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it all that's where my interest started, I should say.
Yeah.
I always think it's so interesting. Like you have like to the untrained eye, somebody that just sees an off-road truck, they look at like any of our pre-runners and they're like, okay, that versus like some huge lifted truck. People think that like lifted monster truck is the same. And you're like, no, that thing's like maybe good for going through some deep water.
We are not the same.
Right, no, but from the untrained eye, I mean, I'm with you, bro. Yeah. It's like that truck has those big tires. Your truck has those big tires. Like, what's the difference? And you're like, well, I mean, a million things, but I guess to you, visually, they look the same.
Here's a prime example of that. The person who knows nothing and talking about it. And this was when I was just getting into pre-runners. And I was in college and I was sitting next to this kid. And he was like trying to show off to this chick. And he's like, yeah, so they just got to lift the front end. And once you get the front end over, you can go over anything. So he was talking about why pre-runner trucks were lifted. And it's like, he didn't know that was all that kid could afford was the front end.
Sure.
And he wasn't getting to the back.
Science.
And he was just like, no, if you just lift the front end, you can just go over everything.
Interesting logic. Yeah.
And he's just like, he's totally like talking like a bro. Like he knew what he was talking about.
If the front end's higher, it's sick. And so then you could get sick.
Exactly. Exactly. How can the rear buck when the front end's 14 inches taller than the rear? Can't.
Totally. But so like obviously all of us have seen like not so much on our forum, but other forums. We've all been part of Desert Rangers. You get the kid that's like, I just got this Ranger, just got this Tacoma. What should how do I fit whatever tires? Like obviously we've seen that on the internet, but you're dealing with this like on a hand-to-hand, like you're in the trenches at your shop. So how do you guide, like, I guess, what kind of advice would you give somebody that's building a truck that knows nothing?
Yeah, it's tough because
we wouldn't even say kid here. There's
grown-ass adults. Regular
sure,
people.
Sure.
It's tough because some people come to you and they already have an idea of what they want in their head, and sometimes these ideas can be from a person who's been doing this for a while. They could be a little outlandish as far as like, you're going from a stock truck and you want this truck. Okay, that's cool, but like, have you ever thought about the middle ground? Maybe start somewhere and see if you even like it versus, jumping into the deep waters with the big boys. Yeah. And it's not about like, trying to go fast or whatever. It's just about like, do you even like this? Or you're going to spend a lot of money. It's not a cheap sport.
What's truly your end goal?
Exactly.
Right?
It's not a cheap sport. Is this what you want? You want me to take your bed and throw it away and put a bunch of tubes back? Like your truck's no longer a truck. Are you sure like this is what you want? Like you can't go to Home Depot for your wife and grab some 2x4s anymore. You're going to have to, figure that out.
Sure.
So there's that, so you want to tell people sometimes like, hey, maybe pump the brakes a little bit. Like, let's get you going with some, just some shocks that work great.
Sure.
Maybe that's all you need.
Yeah.
But so there's that. There's like you want to help people, but you don't want to overstep your bound. You don't want to overstep. And then my other advice for people would be like, obviously I have a full fab shop now with all the tools and all the stuff to build you, not whatever you want, but pretty much whatever you want. I tell people, if you have the means and the space to do things yourself, you should do things yourself. Obviously, there'll always be things that you need specialty tools to do, but a lot of stuff that I do can be done in a driveway with basic hand tools, maybe a little welder, obviously like a cutoff wheel like we were talking about earlier. It's like do the stuff yourself that you can do. And then if there's stuff that you're worried about, for safety or whatever, and you want to leave it to a professional, sure, I get that. But,
Sure.
It's the expensive stuff is all the finish work stuff. That's where the big costs kind of always end up. If you can have somebody like me kind of help you rough out your dream truck as far as like the suspension is concerned, but you're a competent person, you have access to Badlines Good Times forum or a forum similar to that, where you can ask questions for wiring, for plumbing, for all the stuff that it just takes a lot of time, but you don't need a lot of specialty tools for, and you can do it yourself. Do it yourself, because for two reasons. One, you'll know your vehicle, so when it does break down, because it will, it's a vehicle. It's got four wheels. Everything breaks. You'll know how you did it to fix it. And then the second thing is you're going to save yourself a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things here to reiterate what you're saying is, there's a spot for the Fab Lab, you know, but there's also a spot for somebody knowing their truck, knowing the ins and outs, and spending some time doing some of that work yourself. And that way, when you do break down on the trail, or you do end up on the side of the road or something, you have a little bit of understanding at the very least of kind of, okay, what situation am I in? What will it take to maybe get me home?
Yeah, for sure.
I work in a space where I get a lot of questions from a lot of people about stuff, off-road vehicles related. And I always ask them like if you really want a vehicle like this, especially working at a booth at an event, because guys walk up and be like, well, what's this? Like, how much does this cost? And I want a Jake Velasco's truck. The truck's for sale right now for $450,000, and they can't understand like what? Yeah. Like it looks like a C10.
Right.
It's like it's not.
No, absolutely. That's kind of the whole point of that truck is like it looks like a truck, but it's basically a tube chassis, trophy truck.
Well, it is. It's got a Tesco
exactly,
front end.
But it looks like a truck,
But coming back to what that is like I try and make sure people understand like you have to have some competency. Like if you just have somebody build you, you go to Geyser or Tesco or whoever, and you're like, I want a pre-runner that looks like this. It's like, that's only going to last you so long.
Oh, right? Totally.
Like the build is always the cheapest and easiest part. Like having it done up front, but you have to be able to maintain it.
It's the maintaining and the repairs and the keeping it up and being able to take it to the desert
and I think that's the topic that you guys just both brought up is it's not about like right now, like Mikey's building my Bronco for me, and it's just like I just don't have the time. Like not that I couldn't do it, I can't do it as well as Mikey can do it.
No, you're fully capable of building the truck.
Not as well, but it's capable of enough to like obviously have a truck. It goes off road and it does off road things, and it's relatively reliable, like in the scheme of things. But like
are we talking about the Bronco or the Ranger? Because the Ranger,
which one?
That's a good question. Which one, right?
Sometimes in life you just run out of space, and it's like it's awesome that have a friend that does this stuff that you can kind of bounce stuff off and ideas and like any just in general, just have a guy to call and talk about it. But it's just good to know a good reliable shop.
For sure.
Because that's unfortunately my shitbox Ranger that has a feature on Race Desert, which is ridiculous. Like I just like that I'm known for the shitbox. I think I'm the only feature for the worst truck.
Wear it, man. Wear it.
Yeah. No, that's totally.
And I'm okay with it, Yeah. But that truck, and I haven't talked to Jeff specifically about it. I'm not calling Jeff out on this, but it was bad when I got it.
Yeah.
He paid someone for that bad of a truck.
Yeah, the poor guy went to what he thought was a professional fab shop and got subpar work. If you ask me, I mean it's unfortunate. I don't know what he paid. Subpar. I don't know any of that stuff. So it's hard to say if he got what he paid for, but it's unfortunate.
This is not helping the resale of this truck right now.
It's a nice truck.
It's great.
I've done what I needed to do. It's reliable.
The truck's built well enough.
I mean, I drove it here. I live down in San Diego. I drove to Thousand Oaks.
Yeah.
And back.
Truck's built well enough.
And then I drove it to the desert. Me and my dad had a great little rip in it. It's like, it's a truck, you know. But anyways, but it's not like, it took some work to get it to just being off-roadable. And that's after paying a company to do it for you.
Right.
Which is, it always comes back to, it's nice to have a shop. One, you're not a shop that's like super tier one and every picture on your Instagram is your welds. You know what I mean? Like, you're focusing on like aesthetics. Obviously, a lot of those shops can do great work, but like, you know, your job that I feel like as a shop has been to give people very usable products.
Yes.
At a reasonable rate, which is rare.
Exactly, because when I first started, this is something we didn't touch on, but when I first started, I had a fab guy help me try to build my old race truck. So after I got rid of that buggy that didn't work out, I bought a Ranger, a 93 two-wheel drive 4-liter Ranger, and I was going to build this thing into a race truck. And I actually did build it into a race truck.
Oh, we have the pictures.
That was basically what my plan was right from the get-go, not knowing anything. Long story short, I had a fab guy help me build some stuff on it, and he took advantage of me. And from that point on, I thought to myself, man, if I ever, you know, do work for somebody, I want to make sure that I do, you know, clean, thoughtful, nice work, but I want to make sure that they're getting what they pay for. You know, that's really what it comes down to, is like, you want suspension done on your insert truck here. Well, I'm going to give that to you. It's not going to be anything that's over the top where you look at it and you go, wow, that's beautiful, but I'm sure that costs a lot of money because it looks like it was 10 times the amount of work that it needed to be. It's clean, simple, thought out work that is functional.
Yeah. And with that being said, I'm a very frugal person by nature, which is why I own Fords, a lot of them. And I think, but also I think Scott and Elliot are the same way. Like, have you guys taken your vehicles?
I don't own any Fords. No, I'm joking.
I only own Toyotas over
have
here.
Have you guys? Okay, that's the Toyota side. And this is the side of guys that have fun when they go off-roading. Okay,
and we own lots of Fords.
Well,
we're going for it.
These guys only own a couple Toyotas. We own lots of Fords
because we want to keep the adventure going.
Yeah.
You don't fix it though. You just buy a new one. Yeah. That's the problem.
Every day you jump in your old Ford, you're like, may not get where we're going, but we're gonna have fun getting there.
We're going to have fun getting there, but we're going to have to take a quick break. We're going to have our sponsors up. I'm just kidding. I got to go and reset the cameras 1 second.
It's all good.
All right.
All right. Back from our little mini break about our Fords. Gotta get this thing back on.
You were out in the parking lot working on your Ford. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's no Fords out there. There's Mikey's. With the Bronco drove us here, no problem.
That's all right. We still got you outweighed. It's okay.
It'll work great, and we're not home yet.
No, we're not. That's fine. We have to get gas.
Yeah,
but
yeah. So I was gonna say we didn't start out. Your shop is in Simi Valley. Mm-hmm. And how, like, what would you say the furthest customer, like, you're kind of serving the Ventura, LA County area? Yeah,
I would say that's pretty accurate. But, you know, obviously we have people who do travel.
Yeah.
San Diego.
I've had guys from up north, you know, San Francisco area. So
because it is rare to find a good quality shop that does what they say they're gonna do.
Well, I don't know about that, but what's nice is, I think, when people trust another person, I think that's really what it comes down to, is like, you find a shop that you can trust. It doesn't matter how far they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know
you're gonna go to that guy again and again.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter.
Like when Tommy lived in Arizona, he had people that trusted him that lived in Central California. They'll drive their stuff out to Arizona back then to get work done,
mm-hmm.
you know?
But so, like, Elliot, have you ever had another shop do work for you?
No.
Is there a shop, like, you can think of that, one, you could afford, and then two, you would trust with that your money to do it? Like,
other than my boy Mikey? I mean, no, so, I mean, seriously, we've got, with our network of friends that we've built up over the desert racing, like there's a lot of shops that we know
for sure.
that I'm, was the best man at my wedding. No, but he's obviously the closest one to where I live. But I mean, and that's one cool thing about the forum, where we've got like the sites we like page with some of the fab shops, you being on there. It's like, these are kind of vetted, trusted by, Wally and I, whatever that means. Right. But, we're kind of looking to build that network and, showcase these shops and other businesses that are, you're helping us by, being on the forum and participating, sharing your knowledge, now doing a podcast, helping other people. And so it's like, we want to reciprocate that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm with Elliot. I think there's lots of fab shops in our area alone, not including the entire Southern California, that do great work, that are probably reasonably priced. It really just comes down to, in my opinion, connecting with somebody. When you talk to somebody on the phone, you want to feel like they're your guy. You're confident that they know your vision, they know what you want, they're gonna do the work for you. I think first impressions are super important. I feel the same way from a customer. If the customer calls me and I just get weirded out by them for whatever particular reason it is, it's like, that's not a great start in a relationship, So it goes both ways, basically.
I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but I mean, my truck it's one of my babies, right? So when I'm trying to give it over to somebody to, have a vision of mine and make it come to reality, I'm going to want to make that connection, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to want to make sure that
it's got to be what you want
for both
100%.
of us, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And I think one of it speaks to, like, for us specifically, and a shop, like I'm obviously we're talking about Mikey's shop here, but I'm using you as an example. Is like, I want to make sure that dude actually goes off-road. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, like, they get into the space, they start fabbing, and then it turns into a job, and then it's like, well, I don't really even like this that much anymore. Like, it's just too much work to go camping. And so now it just turns into them making trucks for customers on whatever they want or whatever they think looks cool. And it's like, it's a business now.
Yeah.
And which obviously everything turns into work.
Sure.
But like, I truly appreciate someone that wants to continue living that lifestyle. So they get the person coming to them, they get their enthusiasm, and they don't get jaded. You're going to get jaded to a level, but
here's a good question for you. How many trucks do you think you've ridden in that you've actually done or built?
Bring this in a little bit
closer into the mic.
Yeah, just because when you're
All
talking
right.
this way, you're not talking into it. So if you're
many?
if you're talking this way, bring the mic over that way. So then you're talking into it.
Just kind of mic lesson.
There you go, right there.
Wow. Oh wait, I'm not pivoting. My mic's not pivoting.
You don't have
There
to
you
pivot
go.
it. You don't have to
Okay,
pivot
are we
it.
good?
gotta
Are we good?
pivot
Are we good?
Got it.
Are we good now?
Yeah, send
All right.
it.
Okay, sending it. All right.
Just be mindful. We're learning here again on some of the editing side of things. It's just trying to.
No, so
make it
so
as
how
clear.
many you've been at it in your own shop now off of Easy Street for a few years now, right?
Oh yeah.
So you've done
2016,
God,
I think. Yeah.
I can't even count the amount of trucks that you've had come through there. How many of those trucks do you think you've actually ridden in and actually like gotten a feel for what you've done with those for those customers and those trucks and either worked through issues with them or just seeing the great smile on their face from what you've done, like actually riding in those trucks that you've worked on?
There's a few trucks I can think of right now. Now that you say that, I always think about when people ask me any sort of questions, the first thing I always think about is the negative. So there's a few trucks that I've built that I can think of off the top of my head that I haven't ridden in because they don't get used as much as I'd like them to. And that's always kind of a bummer. You really pour, like Steve was saying a second ago, this job is a lot about passion. As much as it is hard work, and it can be some really, really hard work as far as just brutal days of just cutting and grinding, stuff off to build stuff again. You have to be passionate about what you're doing so that kind of those days don't bog you down. But there's a couple trucks I can think of that I spent a lot of time on that don't get used or not yet. I'm not saying that they're not going to get used, but they don't get used yet. But the cool thing I can say is I've ridden in quite a few trucks that I've built, but I have to say when we go on big trips, like we just went on for Thanksgiving, and there's 40 people out there, and there's like 10 or 12 trucks. It's kind of cool to think most of the trucks out there, like I've done at least a little bit of work on, and a lot of trucks I built like all the way through. It's pretty cool. It's
totally.
Actually pretty like it's something tangible where you can see it and like feel it, and that's a pretty cool feeling.
Absolutely.
So. And I everyone besides Scott here, unfortunately, I think we all kind of have something like I work for Method Race Wheels, and it's cool being out at the camp, and it's like almost everyone has the product that I've sold them, and it's just cool being like they're not that they're supporting me, but like I'm helping support them with what I do for a living, and like Elliot too, like you're obviously my insurance guy. Like I'm sure most of the people at our camp in general are using you for insurance purposes.
Big insurance guy, give me a call.
You just got to support your friends. I mean, that's
it's
what it
not
comes
even
down
support.
It's a low key plug.
You got to
support your friends, but like it's just better.
No, it is. But I mean, to me, it's like
I would rather put it forward or pay it forward to a friend
100%.
than to someone random, right?
100%.
So
because at the end of the day, when you need somebody, to have your back, you have to pay it forward. You have to, be there for them. Yeah. You got to support your friends.
Totally.
Yeah, it's good. I'm, obviously truly appreciative of everything Mikey's been doing on my 3-day project.
3 days.
So let's just get it out in the air. I mean, the Bronco's been sitting there for like 7 years.
It's 5, I think.
5 years.
9 years.
12 years.
Whatever.
Yeah.
14 years.
Those are all inaccurate.
So you finally are like, I want to get this going. And you're like, Michael, buddy, the Fab Lab can have this done in like 3 days tops.
Oh, he sold it to me.
Minimum. So you drove out.
Man, come on.
You drove out with Tommy. So you guys had like a TT Motorsports Fab Lab
or something. I still won't.
So, and he's like, "Oh, bro, it's all ready to load up.
Oh, dude,
good to go."
He's like, he called me days before. He's like, "Buddy, this thing's ready to go. All you gotta do is roll up. We'll just wheel that thing up on there."
So how did it go?
It had all 4 wheels on it.
It's got steering. It's got brakes. Like it's good.
I had the steering for it. I was wrong.
We get there. He's still at work, which is fine. We got there early. I used early. It was like getting dark, but it wasn't dark yet. So I was like, we better, get this thing loaded before it gets dark. It's going to be hard to see.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? We just have a conversation with Elliot over here.
And it was still on jack stands. And I was like, oh, okay, that's how this is going to start, So we took it off of jack stands after putting blocks underneath, between the suspension to keep it.
There was already blocks on there.
Okay. There's already blocks on there. And then we had no steering, which is fine. We only had to push it down a very steep hill.
Just kick the tires.
Onto a trailer.
Yeah.
We got it, though.
Yeah. But see, that's just
around a camper.
Yeah,
I mean,
around a camper. I watch a lot of Matt's off-road recovery.
Yeah,
not because of me.
It came in handy, right?
we figured it out.
But there's just a testament of how much of a beauty you are, and Tommy, of course, helping. But
Tommy, he's kicking the tires. He was doing the work.
And but that's rad that obviously you're not going to do that for the average user that's listening to this.
If you have a podcast, stuff like this just happens.
Hey, if they need me to come pick up a project, I am willing to go pick up a project. I have a vehicle and a trailer to do so.
Mikey, that's on camera.
It's fine. You're not the first person I went and rescued a vehicle for, and you won't. I'm sure you won't be the last.
But nicely done. So, and where are you at on this 3-day build? Day 17?
No. Today was day 5.
Okay.
And
coming from a construction background, that's actually not that bad. You're doing okay so far.
The suspension would be done, completely done, if the parts provided were correct.
Okay.
But
hey, that's life.
It's fine.
I thought I had.
No. It's not Steve. It's he bought some stuff.
Well,
he thought was right.
I thought was right. I mean, I had to deliver transmission this morning. Like, just there's not to Mikey, to somebody else to rebuild the original one because I bought the wrong one. I think I'm a little too trusting, and I'm also pretty dumb.
No, it's not dumb. You're too trusting.
I'm too trusting. I swear I read it wrong as E4OD, and that's what he labeled it as, because I would have searched what I exactly needed for a 95 Bronco. And I think I kept using 96. I kept thinking it was 96 forever. Either way, my point being is,
well, the part's all good when it's just sitting there. When it's not getting bolted up, it's all good.
I just love that I've been stepping over that transmission in my garage to do my laundry for 4 years in this garage.
But now it's 4 years.
No, in this garage. This garage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this
Okay.
garage
I
has
see what
been
you're
4 years,
All right.
and that transmission is garbage. It's not
garbage. It's
I
just
just
not
don't
the
need
right
it.
transmission.
I know. That's why I've been stepping out because I wanted to keep it nice. Because that was my transmission. It was clean. It was rebuilt.
It is clean. It's also not the right transmission.
But so
Go ahead.
So does anyone need a good wrong transmission?
AOD.
Yeah, AOD.
Elliot, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so you mentioned, pre-runners are kind of the specialty. What you like to work on, is it mainly Toyotas, Fords? What's your forte?
Well, my forte would be obviously Broncos because I've owned one for the last 15 years. I know them pretty well. Any of the TTB or I-beam suspension stuff.
Just work better.
But that doesn't say that I haven't worked on a lot of Toyotas. I somehow I probably SoCal Tundras, I'm assuming, became like the first gen Tundra guy. Done lots of, long travel installs on Tundras, spring under setups on Tundras, do a lot of Tundra stuff. And then obviously worked on Tacomas, second and third gen Tacomas, not a lot of first gens, but second and third gen Tacomas. And we're willing to work on anything. I mean, I'll put long travel on your Mini Cooper if you got one. So
you just put an engine in the Jeep this week. A
No
little
big
bit of
deal.
everything. So let's bring it back to newbie coming in. Okay, I've got a single cab 94 Ford Ranger. Right, I bought everything from say Threat
sure.
that I needed, or Giant. Say I bought
Right. No,
everything
you
from
got
Giant.
it from Thread. It's got you got the links, you got the equal length I-beam, all the
How
stuff.
without like a full cage, and you're just like, I just want my suspension done. How quickly could you get some kid coming in going, I want a stock truck to a relatively desert truck? He brought you the right, like I'm saying, leaf springs and a coilover kit and a bolt-on
I
edge
gotcha.
cage. Like
I got you.
not full build, just
So
newbie coming into the space.
let's just use your Bronco for example.
Mhm. Say I had all the right parts.
Right. Let's say you bought all the Threat stuff for your Bronco. I can have the front suspension from stock to twin traction beams with the cut and turns, the longer radius arms, the engine cage, coilovers, all painted, tabbed for limit straps, bump stops, like the whole thing. I think that's like a 4-day job.
So for
Rear suspension's a day on a Bronco. They're pretty simple.
Leaf spring, we're talking.
You're talking leaf
Yeah,
sprung,
that's the thing.
cut and turn, stock width.
Yeah, we're not talking
But-
about full builds here.
but-
We're talking about newbie
And
getting
then
the
a
space.
Ranger is a little more complicated because usually can't think of anybody that just offers like a pre-made bolt-in bed cage anymore. Camberg used to, but I don't think they do anymore. I could build you a bed cage, put your leaf springs on, cycle everything. Maybe like 2 weeks, like 10 days probably.
10 days.
Yeah.
Because of the bed cage.
Yeah, because I got to build a bed cage from scratch.
That's interesting. Is there not enough room on a Ford Ranger to do the crossover beam like they do on
No, because if you look at a Bronco, the rear cargo height is substantially higher than the frame. Where like on an F-Series truck or a Ranger, the bed's typically like touching the frame.
Yeah.
So you just don't have that room.
And there's just not enough weight to allow for like I'm just trying to think like if you went with a smaller shock and like lesser travel. Say you did something like a 12-inch travel deal in the back, it just wouldn't work well
No.
because there's just not enough weight
No.
back there to like support.
No.
I'm just kind of like thinking on top of
You got to do cantilever.
Yeah.
Which is fun. You can do that too.
There's a lot of weight.
No, I have it all drawn. I can do cantilever on a Ranger, no problem. I have all that stuff drawn for a 10 or 12-inch travel shock. You can get you 17 inches of wheel travel if your springs will swing that. So easy stuff.
Maybe here's another question. What's the average customer coming in for?
average customer comes in for bolt-on stuff, and I used the word bolt-on pretty loosely because we were joking about it earlier. Most things that are supposed to bolt on never bolt on. They never fit like they're supposed to, so we end up modifying it to bolt on. But most people want stuff bolted onto their truck, unfortunately.
You can tell me to stop, but from my understanding, it's like if somebody drives in a brand new truck, it's most likely going to be bolt on.
Yes.
But a truck that's 10, 12, 15 years old, and you're asking me to put long travel on there, most likely some mount's going to be tweaked, and it takes time to get it straightened, and to get that to actually bolt in is going to be a lot more work than people
For
think.
sure. I'd say the newer trucks are built better as far as where all the holes are in the frame and all that. So yeah, the bolt-on stuff is better. And then yeah, you get to somebody like our older 90s, 80s Broncos. I mean, that stuff just doesn't fit like you think it would. I mean, it bolts on, you have to make it bolt on though. So
Got it.
Yeah, so I just trying to keep on the topic of like what would a newbie expect one starting a shop, because it is like it's kind of a fantasy thing. I've always wanted to own my own shop, and that's always been a thing in my mind. Like I started out working at a hot rod shop as a kid. I was like, oh, it'd be badass, like be the shop owner. Like I'm not the fab guy. Like my work wouldn't support the shop, but I feel like I could run the shop. But like as a newbie coming in, what hurdles did you have to kind of essentially chase?
well, I'd say working for doing that. Okay, let me start over. I'd say the office job helped a lot trying to run a business, because my old boss would constantly tell me things about running his small business that helps me now, like don't grow too quickly, or don't be afraid to just do what you do. Like if you're people want you to do more, but you're unwilling to do more, that's okay. It's okay to grow at your own pace.
You can keep talking. Sorry.
So the office job helped a lot running the business, because as much as fun as it would be to be in the shop full time, fabricating full time, that's not unfortunately what a business owner is going to do. I have to wear all the hats.
Mm-hmm.
I have to answer the phones, answer the questions, order the parts, do the fab work, run around and get said parts, make sure that bills are getting paid. It's more than just working in the shop.
And it probably took you a while to figure out that balance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably still figuring it out.
It's a balance. It's a balance that I'm not that great at, if I'm being honest. It's something that I constantly struggle with.
Well, I mean, to give you a little pat on the back, I mean, you've been at it for a little bit now and still succeeding. So
no,
you're getting somewhere with it.
Thank you. It's not about succeeding. It's about carving out the time that I know I need to carve out to do the things that I know I need to do. And then obviously it's Friday at 5:00 and I haven't done it yet. Yeah. And I'm like, cool, now honey, I got to stay late. I have to, do the paperwork or whatever. It's frustrating. It's got to be frustrating for my wife, I should say. So
1 second.
Sure.
So another question, rewarding part of this, what would you say you get like is the most rewarding feeling out of, your day to day, week to week, however you want to look at it?
I would say what Stevie Boy was saying, when he was like the smiles on the customers' faces, when things get done. It's like there's always a process to every build. It seems like there's the start of the build where, I wouldn't say tensions are high, but, customers don't know what to expect.
You're trying to figure each other out, right?
Customers don't know what to expect. You're trying to feel out the customer. And then as the project kind of starts getting towards like completion and, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, customers generally start getting really stoked.
Oh, yeah.
They start getting really excited because they can't wait to play with their new toy, basically. And I would say that, and then obviously when the customers come at the end to pick up their vehicle or pick up whatever that is that I'm making for them, that's the best part by far. Just the enjoyment of it all.
What do you dislike about the most about it then? As a business owner in the
I get it. The part I dislike the most is the fact that when you're running a small business, you are the business. You're the everything. Like I was just talking about, you wear all of the hats, and that can be frustrating because there's just some days when I like to make personal goals for myself every day. And when you don't complete the personal goals that you've set for yourself when you get there in the morning, because you run into so many roadblocks, like having to talk to customers calling, emails that need to be answered, parts that need to be ordered, and you get done with the end of the day and you're like, man, I only was able to do this amount of work, and I really wanted to get this amount of work done today.
But you still hustled all day.
Of course,
I've totally been there.
But that's not how you feel in your head. You're like, I wanted to be at this point by the end of the day. That's the most frustrating, hard, where you just have to like be okay with walking away and being like, this is where we're at today. It's all good. We'll come back at it tomorrow. Maybe I can like get more done tomorrow, you know?
So I think one thing I've always liked about wanting to own my own shop business like that is, one, there's certain shops you go to and the guys are relaxed, but they're usually 30-year veterans, and they've got their nut cracked, they've got their house dialed in, they've got this and the other, and it's just fun to be there. Now they're just like in their own little garage, and like they've got, you know, the right people working with them, for them, and they're making it fun on a daily basis. And it's like, I went to Wonko today, and I was only there for 10 minutes max, but it was just him. He had like 6 trucks in the shop. He just looked relaxed. He was like, oh yeah, that's just how that is. And like, he just, everything's good. He's like, I got money coming in. Like, he didn't say that, but it's like,
no, Juan's, I know Juan. I sent Stevie to Juan, and he's an older cat. He's probably getting close to retiring, and you can tell he's just really enjoying what he's doing right now. And he's got it all figured out.
Obviously, you're coming from like you know,
I'm on the opposite spectrum.
Yeah, you're starting it, and then you're building your life together. Like, you know, you bought a house this year. Not this year. Was it this year?
It was last year.
Yeah, and you got the kid, and the wife, and the whole deal. And like, now there's that and the angst. I like to use that now. And then, like, you know, 5-10 years from now, it's gonna be like, maybe I won't have it. Yeah, but you're good. Like, you're like, all right, I did that today. And like, I got that done. I got this done. Like, I'm focusing on this right now. Like, I don't know.
And I think like what you're saying, where you just get, you know, you have your kind of list of what you planned on doing in the beginning of the day, and what happens during the day. And it's like, as long as you're moving forward, that's all you can focus on. I think that's any business. I mean, I deal with the same stuff from the insurance end.
No,
so
for sure. But it doesn't go without frustration.
Oh,
you know,
100%.
I mean? Because you're like, in your head, you're like, I'm pretty sure I can get to this point today. And when you're like, at the end of the day's over, it's like, you got to go home. It's like, you barely got halfway there. You're like, it's just so frustrating, you know, mentally.
Sure.
You know, you can't be upset. You're hustling all day. You're working, but it's like, man, you really wanted to get to that point, you know? You set that goal. That's the hardest part, I would say.
And I mean, we can even look at it like, you know, kind of bringing it back to off-road. It's like, say we've got one of our trips planned out like we used to do back in the day. And it's like, you know, hey, we want to make it to here, but we had a bunch of breakages and we're 50 miles shy of where we wanted to be. It's like, yeah, fuck it. Let's make a campfire and have some beers. 100%. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
and I personally always loved the destination. Literally never bothered me.
No, I'm
ever once. I don't care if we end up being there or not. It doesn't matter.
We've been to some pretty cool destinations, but to be honest, it was more the time that weekend with like-minded people, with friends, doing what we do. You know, so
no, for sure. Yeah, I've never been a destination person. I've always been along for the ride, as you guys all know. I don't know where we're going.
Didn't read the email.
Exactly. I'm just there because it's
this guy.
No, I'm not there.
Are we at Ladue yet?
No, for real. I'm not there for the destination. I'm not there for any other reason than I like hanging out with these guys. I don't care where we're going. Like, we could be going into the gates of hell, and I'm like, cool, let's go, baby. How much longer? Like, cool.
Well, and I'm the same way. Like, I joined, and I'm bringing it back to the shop space, because like the shop space just always seemed like the fun hangout. Like, yeah, you're working on stuff, which is rad, but you're with your boys, you're with your people, you're with a like-minded crew doing the exact thing, because like it is an interesting space to be in where you're interested in grinding metal or curating something out of nothing. And like coming back to this topic of just being with our friends, like, I drove 3 hours to be here after a really long day. And it's like, I just want to be around my people, like, and they're rare humans that are interested in this stuff. So that's why I always thought having that shop and owning that shop would like help, again, I'll use the curate again, and bring my type of people to me, by having that. So like, hopefully that's what ends up happening with you. Like, I've met Jesse, twice now, maybe 3 times. Love the guy.
Yeah.
He's a good human.
He's half the reason why I'm half as successful as I am, if I'm being honest, Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got so lucky to snag him away from what he was doing, and he's twice as intelligent as I am as far as just half the stuff that we're working on. It's just amazing to find somebody who is just as passionate about something that you are, but has completely different skill sets. So it's like it's just strengths with strengths. It's like it's just way better. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like all the things you're looking for that you're just lacking in. You find somebody and you're like, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to freaking take over the world. And that's kind of how it's been, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's going to continue that way because like, whatever, he just likes being there.
Yeah, exactly. He's the opposite of me. I'm stressed out about I wanting to get projects done. And he's like, Mikey, it's going to get done and it's going to get done right. And he's right. He's right. I'm the one that's making these self goals for probably no reason. It's just the way I motivate myself. And he's the guy that's like, it's going to get done and it's going to be done the right way the first time. And there's going to be no issues. And it is. And it's like, well, damn, that's the way I should be. But that's just not how I'm wired, Yeah.
Which is good.
I'm goal oriented.
No, I mean, I think the personal goal, for anything you're doing in life is key. That's how you continue to move.
I know that's how you and I are. Yeah. So it makes sense.
That's how you got to do it. But when you don't hit the expectation and you don't complete everything on your list, you're like, dude, what am I doing? But realistically, from the 10,000 foot view or whatever,
for sure.
Which it sounds like Jesse's kind of giving you on the daily. He's like, dude, we're going to get it done.
Yeah. And it's going to be right. And he's right.
Sure.
You can't shortcut, where you're trying to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's rad. I'm stoked that you guys have that.
Yeah.
In general, again, you're building that community.
It's a yin and a yang for sure.
It's rad.
And I love it.
But right on. Well, so we wrap this thing up.
I think so. My camera turned off. Elliot, I hope yours camera's on.
Yeah, so Fab Lab, scope them out. And for all your pre-runner Bronco Toyota needs
4x4,
anything it has wheels, Mikey will work on it.
That's right.
It's like Mikey will eat anything. Mike will work on anything.
I'll weld on anything. Doesn't have to have wheels.
Well, cool.
Wheels are preferred.
Well, stoked. Thank you guys.
Thanks guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.